That's one question. And are there any other reasons, other than the imperial colonial rule? That's power-related issue. Uh, the other is about, you talked about tehsil level. Yeah. I was wondering, one of my friends in Chittoor district, he's organizing the artisans, weaver communities, and inland fisher folk and landless agriculture castes who are skilled in agriculture science. So whenever he tries to bring together them into one platform, even his sub-unions of a federation, they are not willing to have a joint meeting. So what is this mindset? Is it just what we describe as caste mindset, or what it is? I fail to understand. You have spent more time than I have in the villages and understanding those communities. So what is your understanding of that, and how do we transcend this? Should our knowledge Swaraj centers in tehsil level, I was thinking of the district level before I heard you today. So even if we reach all the about 600 districts, can we have knowledge of the artisans, of the forest science and the agriculture science and the fisher folk and the home remedies? All knowledges are there, and so will that sort of reimagine the inter-community relationships and also address some of the power issues of the caste system we have in the villages? Does the whole issue of delegitimization of this knowledge system has something to do with our caste system, and as we view this through the lens of purity, pollution idea or karma theory idea?
Well, there is no answer to that question. I will only give you a response to these concerns which have been with me for, they continue to be with me. The fact of the matter was, my presence there after a point of time was bringing them more harm than good. My staying there continuously was not giving them any value. It was beginning to become very harmful to them. When I stayed there, I tried to add value to what they did by doing the work that they did, and that's how I learned about all these things. So the first thing I did was to walk out. And this was very clearly told to me that, look, we would love to be here, but because of you, everyone else comes. And we don't know what to do. So that's when I said, it's time for me to go. But that left this big question with me. Look, what do I do with so much of love and affection and care and they gave me? But I learned something from them which I try and live by, which we also learned in our anthropology, is that there are cycles and cycles of reciprocity. Something that I can give right now, but something that I can't give right now. So what can I give back to Mother Earth for all that she's giving me? So how do I repay that debt ever in my life? And the answer to that which you taught me was to give it further. And that's how tradition continues. That's how values continue. So what do I do for that here? I give to whoever comes my way, whatever they ask for me, and especially to those who cannot return. So I have to give gifts to people who cannot return. And life gives you ample opportunity to meet these people. So you only have to seize the opportunity and do whatever you can. And the other thing that I do is I always not forget what I learned. And try and experiment with living with those principles in this life. And one principle that I try very hard to practice, which is very difficult to practice, is that your belongings must not weigh more than you can carry. That is the principle of your life. So my endeavor is to give up as much as I can as I move along. And that's difficult. city life demands a lot of things. So I do few things which is based on this principle, but I don't say I succeed fully, but yes, that's an experiment that we continue to do. So I become an experimenter, let's put it this way.
Jay, you have asked me a sort of a civilizational question of such a serious nature. All I can say right now is that I entirely agree with your implied suggestion that you can't blame the breakdown of
Blame only the,
yes that-
only word is
that,
important.
that it is not due to colonialism and all that our society is not functioning in the dynamics that it should, and that there are internal factors at play. That's a very, very serious question. I must give much more thought to that and reflection to that. So I will not even attempt to answer.
Next time. Yes. The other one, the knowledge system, किस तरह का इंस्टीट्यूशनल डिजाइन आपने बहुत सोचा है, तहसील वाला जो आप कह रहे थे उसको थोड़ा एम्पलीफाई करते हैं.
No, you're talking of the
आप हर्बल मेडिसिन का कह रहे
pharmacopoeias
थे
and stuff like that.
उसी को एक्सपेंड करके कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव नॉलेज रिसोर्सेज ऑफ दैट तहसील, ऐसा कुछ हो
See,
सकता
we are doing now, I am beginning now to do in a more systematic way some experiments in specific tehsils where we are systematically, trying to look at the local resources, the local knowledge, trying to find ways in which to, with the support of the local community, to assess their priorities. And we are working with the or non-governmental community-based organizations who are willing to work on a sort of next 10-year basis to try and see whether that local knowledge, that local resource, do a baseline and then develop a program around local knowledge, local resource, which is going to households, which is going to community-supported healers, and to a more limited extent sensitizing the rest of the society, formal systems and all that also about it, so there's not unnecessary antagonism coming from otherwise, and maybe some support also, to see what difference it is going to make. So we are developing programs like this, and we are right now, we have done this in an ad hoc way over many, many years, but we have not been able to say what difference has it made. Now we want to, see what difference is it making. Is it really strengthening health security of our people or no? So this is something that we are now, trying to do more systematically than how we have been doing it in the past.
Our share in the world market of herbal medicinal plants export is 4 to 6%, and China is about 54%. So do you see any clear roadmap with this government talking about so many things about,
See, the market is looking at herbal medicines in a certain way and accepting herbal medicine in a certain way. In a certain way meaning that, the market is right now tuned in the way where, so if I have a cardiac problem, what can you give me which will keep my blood pressure under control, or which will help me substitute a chemical statin with a herbal statin or something like that. The true essence of, if traditional knowledge were to contribute to, let's say, cardiovascular diseases, then or to anything, to a Parkinson or to some of these problems of non-communicable diseases that are on a fairly large scale, dementias or whatever, then say take cardiovascular diseases, then really the traditional solution, at least coming from an Ayurvedic perspective, would be that you eat food, the food gets converted into what we call rasa. That's the first stage of metabolism of the food, and then it gets converted into other body tissues. So rasa, rakt, mams, med, asti, shukra, majja. That is the cycle. If you have a good quality of rasa, that is the key thing. If you have a bad quality of rasa at the first stage of metabolism, then all the other tissues will get affected, and the cardiovascular disease is something that is happening as several other metabolic disorders are happening because of the malformation of rasa. So actually the remedy is a pretty simple one. That you are looking at something like giving you a concrete example, you're looking at something like ajwain and a few other things, made into something which will affect your rasadhatu formation. And if that rasadhatu formation is good, then all the other dhatus will be all right. But now to prove it into a global market, that this thing which is affecting that stage of metabolism is also going to have an effect on the cardiovascular situation, is very, very complex science in the way science does its science. And the people would prefer to have just a drug for lowering BP, for the symptoms. The cause of cardiovascular disease is a metabolic cause. The symptoms are all these things, the blood pressure or whatever. So the Chinese have been working on allopathic lines, that they have produced things which will mimic what a chemical would do. They are not really promoting their traditional Chinese medical knowledge. They are catering to the requirement of the market. Now India can also do the same, and there is a certain kind of
and kill our own knowledge systems.
You may dilute your knowledge system. So either out of pragmatism you may say we will do both. We will come out one with something like this, and we will do something which is more basic. China is not trying to do that, so we can develop a program, but it's to take lots of factors into consideration to see how you want to do it. But certainly, if we want to do this, you can come out. I mean, the so-called traditional knowledge digital library, that is a government initiative which CSIR and Ayush started, and now is really with CSIR, has already recorded 200,000 herbal formulations from the textbooks of traditional medicine referenced with their indications for use. 200,000 herbal formulation is a very, very large corpus of drugs. Large meaning the total global size of pharmaceuticals put together is of the order of 4,000. That's all. I mean, in the marketplace there is even a smaller number in the marketplace, but I'm saying 4,000 is the total thing available in Western medicine. We're talking of 200,000. It's a huge. So you are sitting on all that thing. You can convert a fraction of it into various kinds of products. But I mean, it's a larger question. If India wants to promote globally herbal medicine, then you have two choices, broadly I'm saying. you have a choice of what I would call ready-made garments. You know, so you can buy a shirt with a certain size, an average size, and it may more or less fit. And most of us are doing with not tailor-made shirts, most of us work with ready-made garments. In a freak case, the fit is very good, but generally it is a more or less fit. It is 70, 80%, 60, 70, 70, 75, 80%, never 100% fit. Or you can have tailor shops with good tailors and making a perfect fit. These are the two choices. So if you want to promote herbal medicine, I mean, you have in India also right now, the two models there in the market. You have a Himalaya drug company, and I'm saying this not publicly, please, because they've threatened to sue me if I say this publicly. So I'm saying it informally. Because it's a legal Ayurvedic manufacturer, so they say okay. So now you have a Himalaya drug company types of products, which are ready-made shirts, so they say this Live 52, this Septilin, this thing, that thing, anyone can use it for certain thing. And you have an Arya Vaidya Shala Kotakal, who has a shop with a doctor sitting in it. And if you say, I want something for dysentery, diarrhea, menstrual, this thing, something, what, can I buy something? They say, no, you first go to doctor, he will diagnose you, he will design a prescription suited to your individual need, then you can, they'll mix something and they'll give it to you. So you'll get a tailor-made remedy, etc. And they're doing it, it's in the market. I mean, so you cannot go to an Ayurveda Shala shop and say, I have this, give me something. He'll say, see the doctor, doctor will diagnose you and give you a tailor-made solution. That also works. There are 5,000 or over, I think around 5,000 outlets of Ayurveda Shala in India. That's a tailor model. And you have a Himalaya model where you can walk into a thing and just buy over the counter something. Both are working. So India has a choice of going either for this or that or both, whatever. So it's a question of discussing this thing properly, seeing what way we want to do. But certainly there is a huge potential to increase that, what you are saying, 4% to whatever. There is definitely a thing. But it's a whole ecosystem that will have to be created for this, right from the supply chain to, the kind of science you will put into it, the technology you will put into it, whether you will do decentralized production or whether you will do. So currently it is in the private sector. I mean, no matter what size big companies, today market leaders in herbal medicine in India are Dabur and Himalaya. What is the benefit that the primary grower or collector or community is getting is negligible. I mean, all that they are getting money from is in supplying of raw material. That too at an unfair price. The state is subsidizing them. There's a very strange thing happening in this. The state is subsidizing the National Medicinal Plant Boards is subsidizing farmer to cultivate or grow so that he can supply it to these companies. The companies are not paying the whole cost of the supply thing, and nor are they paying fairly. So this model is going, and we've got 15,000 crore on the annual turnover. It is not benefiting communities, it's not benefiting community knowledge, it is not benefiting, it's giving enough income and employment or something. So we'll have to look at that whole sector properly and see how do we want to go.
You have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to share this example with you. I was in Geneva, and suddenly I started feeling very breathless. So my friend said, "You have an insurance, we can take you to the hospital, please don't die on us." So I said, "No, I don't want to die in Switzerland in the first place. If I have to die, I'd like to go home and die." So I have a friend who has been doing herbal medicine. By looking at the internet, finding out remedies, doing detoxification, she looks exactly what she looked like 30 years ago. She's 60 years, she still looks 25, 30 when I first met her in 1978. She's from Ghana. And so she just happened to come and she said, either you can go and buy Swiss chocolates because I was leaving after 2 days and the market was going to be shut, or you can come to the pharmacy, herbal pharmacy. And I have got a book. We will read the book in the shop itself. You see what is going to help you for your condition, and we can buy the herbs there. And those herbs are to be taken like tea. It also, the book also tells you how to prepare the tea. Cold water, hot water, whatever. So I went there, and that same night a dinner was kept for me by somebody who had been in hospital and had nearly died and had every conceivable problem. And I said, I not only want to feel better, I also want to go and attend that dinner, where she had called my friends. So, and it didn't look likely because I could barely breathe. So we got these herbs, we got the book, we fortunately found an English copy. It's been translated in many languages. The book has sold 7 million copies, most of it in Europe alone. There was a Austrian herbologist who has basically in the book, her mother was a very well-known herbologist. She didn't pay much attention to this information. They lived in the mountains, that was being transmitted to her. She saw her mother giving various things to various people and telling her. She used to go and pick up these herbs herself. And, you know, it was like you can say the same thing as traditional passing down the generations thing. It was only when her mother died and people kept coming that she started